let's talk about tools of the trade. Should I say stools of the trade? Welcome back to Chronically Musical. My name is Alice, and I am a professional classical musician living with 2 autoimmune diseases, and this YouTube channel is where I share videos about both of those things. Now, in my last video, which was all about orchestral auditions, I promised that I was going to start to be more consistent in sharing videos on my YouTube channel again, but in hindsight, committing to consistency right now just feels a little overwhelming, so I'm gonna kind of throw these out as I can, and hopefully that's okay. Though things are finally starting to happen again, and I'm performing several nights a week right now, and it's been such a joy to have an audience again. All of that is great, but my body sometimes has other plans, and unfortunately I've had a resurgence of some IBD symptoms, rectal bleeding, and that part is not so much fun. I attribute that symptom returning in large part due to stress, because that's kind of my #1 trigger, and rectal bleeding is the first symptom that I tend to notice when my symptoms are flaring. I'm hoping that it's just circumstantial and will be short-lived, but on top of all of the work stress I've had, I recently was forced to switch to a biosimilar version of Remicade called Inflectra, and that whole transition really threw me and was a total surprise and very upsetting, so that's also not been helping with the situation. But consequently, it means I have content for you, because today we're going to talk about stool tests. Now, this is not my first rodeo. I have done many stool tests. I can remember my first one back when I was a senior in high school, and at the time I thought it was so disgusting and so unsanitary, and now I have an entire album in my camera roll dedicated to pictures of my poop, so we've grown a lot. But that got me thinking, perhaps this is someone's first rodeo. Maybe you're watching this video right now because you have a collection kit in your hand but have no idea how to do it. You don't know how to do it. Let's see how many poop jokes we can fit into one video. Speaking of poop jokes, if you haven't already, you should subscribe to my channel. I promise I don't talk about poop all that much, but it is kind of the underscore of my reality right now, so this is definitely not going to be the last video about it. I talk about other stuff too though, so you should hit that like button and hit subscribe while you're down there. Anyway, where was I? Yes, the stool test. Now, stool tests can be used to diagnose a number of different things, from parasites to tapeworms to bacterial infections to even predicting signs of colon cancer. Stool tests can be incredibly effective diagnostic tools. A calprotectin stool test, which is the kind of stool test that I find myself doing most often, measures inflammation specifically in the intestines. This kind of stool test is incredibly helpful for IBD patients because it allows doctors to keep an eye on things without going through the whole process of an endoscopy or colonoscopy. I should point out though that a calprotectin stool test is in no way a substitute for those kinds of scopes. You definitely still need to get a colonoscopy and/or an endoscopy if you're going to be properly diagnosed and if your doctors are going to be able to see exactly what's going on. But this calprotectin stool test definitely helps in between those scopes and keeping an eye on how medications are working, and allows them to make diagnostic decisions a little bit more quickly. A normal calprotectin level is somewhere below 50. I don't know what that means, but somewhere below 50 is normal. Slightly elevated or borderline is anywhere between 50 and 120, and then everything above that is high. And lucky for us, IBD patients can have calprotectin results that are anywhere from 5 to several thousand times the normal 0 to 50 amount. My calprotectin levels around this time last year, July 2021, were 2,700. And now they are 99. So I'm still technically in the elevated range, but I will take 99 over 2,700 any day of the week. Things were not great. I was doing better, I was feeling better. My symptoms were a lot better and a lot more under control, but my inflammation markers were still very high in my stool. So, sometimes what you're feeling is not necessarily lining up with what tests say, which is what makes medicine and autoimmune diseases in general so confusing. How one person experiences inflammation is very different than how another person does. So this is why we have to make sure we get all of these tests done and advocate for ourselves and take an active role in our health journeys, because only you are feeling what you are feeling. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox now and go back to the poop talk, because that's what we're here for. Now, as I mentioned, there are a lot of different types of stool tests out there, but they are all performed basically the same way, which is that you have to do them yourself. So that's fun. So let's talk about tools of the trade. Should I say stools of the trade? Poop joke number 2. Oh, is that a poop joke too? Number 2? I'm gonna say that was 3. Now, the first thing you're gonna need is a prescription from a doctor who's telling you to get the stool test. Once you have that, you can either go to a local lab and pick up a collection kit, or your doctor might actually have one at their office. So perhaps when you're getting that prescription, you can ask for one. Just sort of depends on the situation. But in my experience, most of the time, I have to go to a lab. Now, your collection kit is going to look slightly different depending on what kind of stool test you're doing. Sometimes you're going to just have one little vial to collect your sample in. Other times you'll have more than one. Some of them might have liquid that's clear or red, others might be empty. Again, it just depends on what kind of stool test you're having done, but you're gonna have at least one container in there to fill up. Now, if this is your first time doing a stool test, when you pick up your collection kit, make sure you ask whoever you're getting it from whether your sample needs to be frozen or refrigerated, and how soon you need to get that sample back. That's kind of the tricky part to all of this, is timing it out. I like to pick a day of the week in my schedule where I don't have much going on. Sometimes I can't predict whether I'm gonna actually go to the bathroom enough to be able to collect anything. It's very frustrating. I feel like my body's like, haha, joke's on you, I don't have to go today. But in general, I do try and kind of plan the day that I'm going to do it so that I can get the test done in the morning and then take it to the lab the same day. Now, your standard collection kit is gonna come in something like this. It's gonna have a collection tube or tubes depending on your test, and then a darker colored bag to, try and be discreet that you can place your sample in, as well as a way to catch your sample. And if your doctor or a nurse or someone at a lab hands you this and this little situation is in there, I want you to throw it back at them, because this is a crime. This little paper absurdity is quite possibly the worst invention I have ever seen. The concept is, it's called a stool collection paper, okay? Red flag right there should be the word paper. But the concept is that you unfold this, okay? There's little instructions on it. You unfold each of these flaps that are kind of sticky, and you stick each of these flaps onto the toilet seat. And then this little, I don't know what, this little flap, this other flap, will sort of drape into the bowl. And this is what you are supposed to aim for. Do you see how this might be a problem? Typically, if you are having a stool test done, it probably means that something isn't right. So I would expect that it would not be uncommon for people doing stool tests to be having soft stools, loose stools, potentially diarrhea. And this little flimsy nonsense is not gonna cut it. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Not to mention, once you have deposited your specimen into this little hammock, you then have to like hover over the toilet bowl and like not eat. You scoop out your sample like you're doing a steam facial or something, and it's just barbaric. It's just, I hate these things so much. Now, I am here to tell you that this is not the only way. I am about to show you the gold standard in poop collection technology, and that is this guy right here. Basically the same thing, except a lot more sturdy and just a lot more practical in every single way. Also, like, I guess you flush this down the toilet, but that doesn't really seem like a great thing. I don't know. I mean, this is reusable as long as you clean it, which I did relatively well. If you can, I'd highly recommend asking wherever you're getting the test kit from if they have this plastic collection vessel. I don't actually know what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it. It's a hell of a lot better than like sitting over the toilet like a raccoon in a dumpster trying to get your poop out of inside the bowl. I mean, it's just a mess. Is this a stand-up routine? I can't tell. Now, if you can't get your hands on this fancy device, you can always just use a plastic or paper bowl. You can even use a plate, depending on the condition of your stool. If you're not, you know, loosey-goosey over here, you might be able to get away with a plate. But I've done that in the past. I just have used like a disposable bowl. The thing with this that's great is you can clean it and reuse it. The bowl I wouldn't recommend reusing. I would just throw that one away. I will say with, you know, any sort of collection thing, I mean, with this, you can actually set it on the toilet seat and sit down on top of it, which is great. If you use a bowl, you do kind of have to hold it. And if you're, you know, worried about missing, you can always just put gloves on. I'd honestly recommend using gloves for this whole process anyway. But yeah, you just kind of have to aim and hold it a little bit. It's a little awkward, but it's, again, 20 million times better than that paper thing. So now we've come to the part of our program where things get a little messy. You've obtained your sample in your handy dandy collection vessel, and now you have to get it from here into here. How are you gonna do that? Well, I think the same person who designed that paper collection thing also designed these little tubes, because conveniently they come with a pre-attached little scooper, little pooper scooper. There you go. Which to me looks like a spork for a dollhouse picnic. And it is the most impractical way to get your poop into this, especially if you are someone who is having diarrhea. I mean, really? So again, I prefer to utilize disposable cutlery in the form of a spoon, and just have that little spoon, stick it right in here, not this, you know, the plastic spoon. And then if you need to, sometimes the ones with liquid ask you to like mix it, so you can mix with this thing, but just getting the sample in here with this is like absurd. I honestly feel like if it was like a suction, like a turkey baster type thing, like you could suck it and then squeeze it, like that would be a good idea, you know? Maybe I should invent something. If you have a good name for my turkey baster poop collection tool, leave it in the comments for me, because I might try to market this. As you can see on these test bottles, there is a red line here, and that's basically telling you how high you need to fill up the container. You won't have to put as much of your sample into one of the containers that has liquid in it, because volume, I guess, that's how it works. So it is a decent amount. But yeah, I think just using a spoon and a bowl is gonna be a lot better than the tools that are provided to you. Last but not least, you are going to want to label your little collection tube. You might actually also, yeah, you can also label whatever the bag is in here. And then again, either put it into the freezer or fridge immediately, or if you can just hop in your car or some kind of transportation and get the sample where it needs to go immediately, then do that, because the sooner the better. Oh, also, speaking from experience, if you don't live alone or you have another person who shares your refrigerator and or freezer, make sure you warn them ahead of time. I like to put my sample in a brown paper bag and then put it in one of those places just so it's a little bit less disgusting. But you don't want like your housemate or roommate or family, whoever you live with, to like go exploring in that brown paper bag. That would bring your relationship to a whole different place, and I don't want that for either of you. And honestly, that's it. I mean, the hardest part is just scooping it in there, but after that, it's easy breezy, you know? And I hope that these tools and these strategies I've shared with you are helpful. If you have stool test questions, drop them down in the comments. As always, you can find me on Instagram at AlicePinkViola. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, like all the other videos, become my biggest fan, send me money. Just kidding. Maybe just a couple of those things. And yeah, I guess that's it for the poop commentary. And we ended up with 3 poop jokes. I didn't really fit any in at the end there, but you know, I did my best, so what can you do? Happy pooping! I'll see you guys next time.